welcome everybody to Cooking 101. I had started this channel a long time ago, but I never had the time to actually pursue it and finish it. So let's get started. So the purpose of this channel is to teach you guys the fundamentals of cooking. So we're gonna go, just like if you were in culinary school, you're gonna go through learning your knives, different tools in the kitchen, different techniques. And then we're gonna go into start going into recipes. Okay, so as everybody can see a recipe, and what I found is that you see a recipe, you follow the instructions, and if something doesn't happen exactly how the recipe looks like, we think of it as a failure. So instead of just learning how to follow a recipe, we're going to show you how to learn how to cook. So therefore, when you read the recipe and you know how to follow the instructions, you know exactly what it means, you know how to get everything ready, you know the steps it takes, how it happens, why it happens, why you need to do that, different types of cooking, and make your life a little bit easier. So that way you can just read the recipe, read the ingredients, and you pretty much know what to do and where to go from. Okay, so first we're going to start off with our knives. This is just a basic, simple set of knives. You have kitchen knife blocks that have a lot more knives that include your steak knives for dinner. We're going to start off with your chef knives. I usually like to have two. The reason for that is that I'll have both of them as sharp as possible, but if one of them is going dull, I don't have to stop production, I don't have to stop what I'm doing, I'll just continue on with the next one and kind of go from there. So again, these are my chef's knives. They're characteristics of them: wider blade and long. Okay, so wide blade and long. There's no serration on them. There's different kinds that you can use. The Japanese ones that will drop down a little bit, but the important part is wide blade, about 8 inches long, should be fine. One of the things that you have to notice is the weight of the knife. It should be fairly balanced. Okay, so here I am balancing the knife on my finger, and that's how you know that it's a well-balanced knife. How are you going to hold your knife? You're not going to hold it like this. You are not going to hold it like this. In the meantime, what you're going to do, sorry, I'm left-handed, so is you're going to pinch with your thumb and your index finger on the blade. So I'm going to place my index right at the edge, right here, and my thumb will pinch right on top. And then with your other 3 fingers, you're going to hold on to the handle. Okay? So this pinching position is how you're going to hold your knife. Same thing on this knife. Index on the outside, thumb on the other side, and fingers around the handle. Okay? And this is how you're going to hold it. Okay. This is my chef's knife. This is a paring knife. Paring knife is pretty much the same thing as a chef knife, but smaller. So for example, if I need to do something really fine, if I need to do something small, I need to use the paring knife. Serrated knife is for where you need to cut bread primarily. If these are not sharp enough, then you can use a serrated knife for like tomatoes or something like that, something delicate like a tomato. But try to have these sharpened at all times. Okay. Now we have our fillet or fish knife. The difference between this one is going to be it's narrow. So if you notice the blade between our chef's knives and their serrated knife and this one, it's very narrow. It's long. And the main characteristic is that it's flexible. The blade is flexible, so that way you can go into the fish skin and then peel it off. Okay, you need to get in and get into tissues in between the meat. You can go into it because the blade is flexible. Okay, and last I have a carving knife. This one is the blade is a little narrow, but it's longer. Okay, the idea for this is that if you're carving a turkey, if you're carving a roast, you're able to use the whole blade of the knife to cut through the roast. If you were to use something smaller, I'm exaggerating, but if you were to use something smaller, can you imagine how long it will take you to get to the other side to finish your cut? You want to make sure we make nice and long strokes through it. Okay, so these are your chef's knives. We discussed already how to hold it. Now we're going to show you how to cut. So we have, I'm going to show you 3 different ways of cutting. First and foremost, the unoccupied hand. I'll show you this on the right hand too. Index, thumb, fingers around the handle. Okay. Now, first thing that we're going to do is we have 3 different types of cuts that I'm going to show you. First one is making sure that the blade goes from tip of the blade to handle. Okay, so if I'm cutting, it goes like this. Okay, and I'm using the entire blade of the hand of the knife. I want to make sure that I'm not just using one end or the other end. I want to use the entire thing. That's how you become efficient with your cutting. Okay. Number 2 is going to be a straight cut. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm going to start from the tip of the knife and I'm just going to cut straight down and straight and straight. And this one will be more use of the arm as you cut straight. Now the last one that I've noticed, and I'm not really, I don't really like this method, but when I was working in the kitchens, a lot of people used to use that, was up and down. So for example, if they're cutting, they'll do this. And the idea again is to make sure that you're using the entire blade, but this one it's an opposite. It goes from the handle to the tip. So if you're holding on to something, it'll go from the handle to the tip. Handle, tip, handle, tip, and it just goes down. Do what's best for you. Personally, I either do this one from tip to handle, and I do straight. Tip to handle, straight. Those are the ones I prefer. All right, now moving on, we're going to go talk about some utensils. Number 1, vegetable peeler. Always have a vegetable peeler. There's this one, the classic style. There's also the other ones that are wide, and you just pull down so this blade is horizontal, the handle is across, and you pull. Either one is fine. We have a rubber spatula. Sorry, I'm outdoors, so the spatula got dirty here. Rubber spatula for mixing. We have a spoon. You can use a stainless steel spoon, a wooden spoon, a plastic spoon, whatever. The ones that are made for cooking. We have a slotted spoon. Obviously, it has slots in it, so that way you are able to pick up whatever you have and leave the juices or anything else on the bottom. We have a fish spatula or cooking spatula. This is, for example, if I wanted to, it's flexible, same as the fish knife, right? So that way I can get in there and grab the whole fish, be able to put it over scallops. It's very thin as well, so that way I can get really under there without pulling anything off of the pan. We have ladles. Well, there are different kinds of ladles. This is just a 2-ounce ladle. You can have bigger 4-ounce, 6-ounce ladles, 8-ounce ladles. We're going to have whisks. Very, very important to have a whisk. We have tongs. There's different kinds of tongs. There's the ones that have the little secure thing here, so it'll keep it together. And then you just press it and it'll open up, pull it, it locks in. This one doesn't. It's just a regular. And of course, measuring spoons. And you should also have measuring cups. I didn't bring my measuring cups. But now here, it's going to be very important to notice that when you're looking at your measuring spoons, you have 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, and then it jumps into 1 tablespoon. The reason for that is that 2 teaspoons are a tablespoon. So in essence, 1 teaspoon is 1/2 tablespoon. Okay. 1/2 teaspoon is 1/4 tablespoon. Okay. And obviously 1/4 teaspoon will be 1/8 of a tablespoon. So just remember that equivalent is 2 teaspoons equal 1 tablespoon. Okay. All right, that is pretty much it for lesson 1. These are the utensils that you most likely will need in cooking. First and foremost, we had our chef knife, we had our paring knife, we had our serrated knife, we had our fillet or fish knife, and we had our carving knife. Okay, so to recap, we just discussed how to cut. We decided that we were going to go from tip to handle, and also we were going to discuss I want to show you guys the claw, the pinch, or 3 fingers. Okay, so what it means is if I create this claw, my middle finger is further ahead. So what's going to happen is I'm going to bend the fingers, and this little joint here, this little knuckle, is what's going to serve as a guide for me to cut. Okay, so if I do it sideways, this joint here is what ends up serving as a guide for me to cut. Okay, therefore you avoid your fingertips. You want to make sure that your knives are always 100% sharp. Dull knives is the worst thing that you can have, and the more chances you will of cutting yourself and having some type of injury. So super sharp knives, keep your fingertips tucked in. Use the knuckle here, or that joint there, to use it as a guide on the blade of your knife. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.